Hi guys, welcome back to the desk corner. Welcome to a new video, of course. And in today's video, we're doing something maybe graphite charcoal related, but before we get into that, I just wanted to show you guys how messy my desk still is after the oil pastel fiasco, and also probably from the watercolor pencils I was using before. But those are much easier to clean, and my desk is a lot messier now. I might have to figure out what to do about this, if I just need to put a new paper down on my desk or something, because this is kind of unsightly, but we're just going to ignore that for now. I will show you the sketch I was working on this morning. Let me zoom into it. As you can see, it's a rose, if you could see that yet. I think it just focused. And I just had this half sheet of paper. I feel like I'm very guilty of always creating artworks on these half sheets because it's so much faster and easier for a video, and I guess it saves paper because I can use a piece for more than one artwork, but I probably need to work on a bigger piece soon, as I've been working on small ones a lot more frequently lately. Before we get started, I think I should choose what medium I'd like to use because I'm still not sure, which is why I just brought everything out, because this is my new bag which I organized my graphite and charcoal and carbon stuff in. My graphite pencils, like my regular graphite pencils, are in this top pouch, but I know I don't want to use those for this because the values get quite dark in this reference photo that I'm looking at, so I want to use something that you can create more contrast with. I've got my charcoal pencils, including my Cretacolors, which are my favorite that I haven't used in a while, in the second zipper. And then we've got some carbon pencils in here. I did organize these on camera a couple videos back, but I also have my Pitt graphite matte pencils by Faber-Castell, but I think I've actually used those more lately. So let's go ahead and eliminate that one already, because we've already kind of used those in a recent video, and I don't really want to use graphite, so we're left with either using charcoal or carbon. And for my charcoal pencils, I've got a few options. I've got my Cretacolors and the Conte Paris normal generals pencils as well. And for the carbon, it's a little bit more limited. We mainly just have these Wolf's carbon pencils and a couple of the Conte Paris pencils as well, which I don't want to use because those are too big. You know what? I think I'm just going to use my Cretacolors because this rose has some lighter values too, which would be easier for me to get with the Cretacolors than like the actual charcoal, General's charcoal or Wolf's carbon pencils. If you guys have been around on my channel for some significant amount of time, you know that I'm pretty obsessed with the Cretacolors. I have extra soft, soft, medium, and hard, which I don't know if they offer any more besides these ones. Like, I don't know if they have an extra hard as well, but these 4 pencils are enough to get me through pretty much any artwork that I'd like to. And these pencils are oil-based charcoal, if you don't know already, and so these are not very scratchy, and they also do not create a big mess the same way that normal charcoal pencils do, in case you have not tried these or heard of these before. And Cretacolor, please sponsor me. I'm your biggest fan. If you're new to my channel but you are enjoying my videos so far, please subscribe. Help me get to 10K subscribers, and maybe I'll have a slightly higher chance of Cretacolor one day sponsoring me and making all of my wildest dreams come true. I think that's pretty much it for the intro. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the artwork. I want this video to be a little bit like tutorial-esque, or at least I just want to talk some about my techniques as I am going about creating this rose. I'm starting off with the medium pencil, and the great thing about this is that the medium is not only firmer than the soft and extra soft, but it's also actually quite a bit lighter in value. And I think this is actually really helpful because with other charcoal pencils, sometimes it's a little bit, you could tell the difference in value just a little bit between the different firmness of the pencils, but usually you kind of just have to use the charcoal powder to create those mid-tone and lighter values, which is fine, and that's a different method of working. But these pencils actually don't really give off very much powder at all, and you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it being quite as messy when you're working with these, and rather you can actually use the different grades of pencil to create the different values, which I think is great for a charcoal pencil because usually that's what you do with graphite, and charcoal is a different story altogether. So I'm using the medium pencil and the soft a little bit for some of those really dark areas in the leaves, but This layer I realized later was a little too light because as I go on to do the background, which is going to be basically pure black, then this is going to look way too light and I'll have to go in and darken it up. But that's okay, that's just kind of how these things go. I really wanted to do this drawing though as an experiment on different values and how to create those with only a few pencils, and I think that succeeded in this drawing because you'll see by the end that I've created so many different values. And then for the background, I'm showing you guys just how dark these pencils can get. So I'm using the extra soft, and I'm actually kind of using like a medium pressure here. I'm coloring in the same direction because I want this background to be very black. So even though these actually don't get just as dark as like a General's charcoal pencil, they get pretty dark. They are a shade of black, as you could see from what I'm doing here. And this was a little bit painful on my hand, to be honest, and there's probably like a better way I could have done this, like a lighter layer and then a layer on top to create this dark layer, but I was feeling a little bit lazy, and sometimes there's like a satisfaction in just creating those really dark layers right off the bat. I don't know how to explain it. It didn't give me too much of a hand cramp though, because this wasn't a huge piece, it was only a half sheet. And so you could see I'm trying to get in between all the leaves right now, and because of that, I'm left with this kind of like cartoonish look around the leaves, which I'll go back and fix later. I need to like soften the edges because the edges look a little too sharp. But I decided to just work on the left side first. I'm right-handed, and if I worked on the entire background of the right side, my hand would be smudging this drawing the whole way through. So I decided to save that until after I was done with the rest of the rows. I keep having to re-record things because of my neighbor's dog, which is pretty funny, but I hope I'm not missing anything because I'm repeating the same things again and again. But I decided to move on to the petals, which are supposed to be white, and so I had to be very careful. So I used my hard pencil because it's the lightest of the group, and I also wanted to get some of those really fine details in there also, so that's why the hard pencil came in handy. And when you're creating something that's supposed to look white, you really have to make sure you preserve most of your highlights and be very careful about midtones because your actual shadows are not going to be very dark. There might be just a few corners where you're going to have a dark shadow, which you could see in my picture, but besides that, you want to be pretty careful about preserving those highlights. Oh, I went back and I decided I needed to darken up some of the leaves because they looked way too light against the background, and I wanted them to be quite a few shades darker than the petals themselves. So this entire drawing just has a lot of different values, as you could see. I avoid roses as a subject because I find it so annoying to draw in all the shapes. I honestly don't like how weird and irregular all the shapes are, and I find it hard to make them all come together in my mind and stitch them all together. So what I do is I just focus on one little petal at a time in one shape, as weird as that shape may be. And with this, I had a lot of fun just sort of working on one area at a time and then not worrying about the next. So I wasn't worried about how it's gonna look cohesively because I really didn't know. I felt like all these shapes and folds looked so odd. But then once I finished, it all kind of just like came together and I was able to see how it looks like a rose. But again, I have to not focus on that in the process because otherwise I'll get frustrated. One thing I noticed with these pencils is sometimes it's hard when you layer upon a certain area. Like for example, that top, very top kind of right petal, there's a shadowed area at the bottom, which I then try to layer with a little more of like a darker pencil. And sometimes what happens is it's hard to add more layers. It's almost like you layered out on a certain area. I'm sure it depends on the paper too, but I've noticed that with these pencils. This happens with graphite too after quite a few layers, but for these pencils it happens mostly if you're putting more pressure on a certain area or adding a lot of the pencil to a certain area, so you definitely have to watch out for that. As I was finishing up here, I found myself struggling a little bit with the middle part of the rose, which I found to be the hardest to keep up with all those little shapes. And so I would use the soft pencil to try and create a few more shadows so it looks like there is some value in that middle area, which is important, especially with something like a white rose where it might be difficult to create too many shadows, or you don't want your shadows to be too dark or to interfere with the rest of the drawing, if that makes sense. And you'll see me using my Tombow Mono Zero eraser to try and like work on little detail areas because I would never go in there with a big eraser for fear of ruining all the other surrounding areas. And so then there was also one more leaf too that I saved to add in until the end, and this one just kind of protrudes on the right side of the rose, and then I was able to fill in the rest of the background. I decided not to make the background cover the entire page because it seemed just like it would be a waste of the pencil, to be honest, and so I created a little bit of a frame, probably not quite as evenly as I would have hoped it to be, but I think it's even enough for it to be acceptable here. Plus I can always trim the paper down if I wish, but I'm pretty pleased with this drawing. It still looks like a drawing, there's still sketch marks, but that's okay. I don't always like to smoothly blend everything, and sometimes I like it to look a little bit more like an actual sketch or drawing, and that's how this one turned out. And I slowed this down here at the very end so you can just see how long it actually took me to do this entire background. It did take me quite a while. I just wanted to show you guys the final piece, and I signed it and dated it and everything now. And I hope that you guys enjoyed watching today's video, drawing along with me with the Cretacolors like the old days. I feel like I've always been very obsessed with the Cretacolors, to be honest. If you'd like to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I've got lots of videos like this and lots of other types of videos too. I've been very into watercolor pencils lately, so I've been doing a lot of that. And my next video is going to be, or at least my next like drawing type video is going to probably be Easter themed, and we'll see how that goes because I haven't really thought of exactly what to do yet, but I know I'm going to be using my Caran d'Ache Pablos for that one, so stick around to see that, you guys. Thanks again for watching as always and supporting the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!